Okay, so I will call to order the Southborough School Committee open meeting of Wednesday, December 11th, 2019. And the first item on the agenda is audience sharing. Anybody have anything they would like to share? All right, we'll move on to new business. The first item is Trottier Middle School Improvement Plan update.
Super. So thank you for this chance. Gary and I will be giving an update of our school improvement plan progress so far. We did present a new improvement plan to you guys last June, and usually with a December presentation we don't have much of an update to give, but it's different this time around. We have made progress on two of our goals that we're very excited to share with you tonight. Just as an overall overview, our school improvement plan goals are fourfold. We have a student oral communication skills goal that we're working on actively now that Gary's going to be talking about shortly. We also have a questioning methodology goal that we're investigating. That's kind of on hold at present, and we'll probably give an update on that at a later time. Student connectedness is certainly something that's been ongoing, but with a brand new twist this year that I'm very excited to share about. We have a couple of things related to that goal that we're going to be sharing this evening. And then the fourth is student feedback when it comes to our learning management system, Canvas. And although we don't have a formal update on that tonight, I can say that that has been part of many of our teachers' student learning and professional practice goals that they've launched this fall. So to say that our improvement plan has already been embedded into teachers' practice is an accurate statement. I would say many of our teachers have adopted one or two of the goals into their own goals, and it's things that they're presently working on. But more specifically, Gary's going to lead us on a conversation right now about our student communication goal and the progress.
Yeah. So just a reminder, really part of this goal is to improve, both student presentation skills and daily communication skills across all grades and across all disciplines. And we're really pleased about this work so far. It's fair to say that we're in both the initiation and inventory stage of our work. We were very fortunate to have our instructional rounds team visit our school in conjunction with our professional development day on November 5th as a springboard for this work. We asked our instructional rounds team to really look at the level of discussion in the classroom across disciplines and grade level. We had the teams look at, the methodology in which teachers were using, how our students were engaged in dialogue around curriculum concepts. We wanted the team to cite what evidence or rationale or support that students were using to explain their answers. The guiding questions that we gave our instructional rounds team was simply to look at the tasks that students were working on, which students were talking, who were they talking to, what were the students talking about, and most importantly, what did they notice about how students were explaining their thinking. Although the instructional rounds work is just one data point, they did see some patterns, which was helpful for us. They noticed that, for example, they saw more teacher-to-student conversation than student-to-student conversation, and they felt that at some points that there were opportunities to push students further in their thinking. Coupled with that, we were able to take what we learned from instructional rounds and use it within our professional development in November. We reviewed the goal with the faculty as a whole. We talked about the impetus behind this work and that the efforts that we'll need, the collective efforts that we'll need to be successful. So in discussing the why, it's very similar to the portrait of graduate work that we're doing for our strategic plan. We looked at the research, and employers are citing more and more the most essential skill that they want to see in the next generation in the workforce is the ability to communicate effectively. If you look at the Common Core standards, there is such heavy emphasis on speaking, articulation, defense of a position, and the use of evidence in oral communication. And I think more importantly, if you cannot walk through Trottier on a daily basis and without seeing discussion happening in every classroom and at any grade level every day. So our process was really to help, for Keith and I, was to help our staff conceptualize this work. And the way we were able to do that is we put this work in almost two buckets, micro and macro. So for our faculty and for the committee here tonight, the macros are those opportunities which are the large speaking opportunities. They're more of a capstone piece to a unit or a summative assessment. Typically, it'd be like a stage debate, maybe a town hall presentation, a stand-up science project, or a PowerPoint presentation. And for the micro, these are the smaller scale discussions that are happening in the classroom. Those are the daily presentations. It could be a Socratic seminar. It could be a pair of students explaining or defending a position of how they came up with a mathematical solution from the night's homework, or a class responding to a news story. So allowing the faculty to kind of conceptualize the two platforms was very important. Also, Keith and I were able to set course on this goal. We were able to model some approaches. We reviewed some literature. We were able to gain perspective from our faculty and hear their feedback and recognize the work that's already taking place. So currently, we're proud to say that all departments, in Trottier have been able to inventory both their micro and macro opportunities. So we have done that inventory process. The goal will be initially to take a look at the macros. What are those large-scale presentation opportunities that students will perform in a given year? Collectively, we want to know, for example, in a given year, what will our sixth graders be expected to do around oral communication? In this process, the teams have already started working on grade level rubrics to provide some commonality and set a clear course of expectations. I'm proud to say that one of the things that Keith and I have been seeing on a regular basis is that there have been more preview and review lessons around oral communication. Teachers are really encouraging students to think back, self-assess, give feedback to their own classmates about what's working and where some areas of improvement. In addition, we are collecting a measurement of performance, and we hopefully we're also looking for alternatives for students who do struggle with the oral presentation. Currently, Audrey Allenson, our media specialist and librarian, is investigating the purchase of some equipment in order to allow our students to do podcasts that will hopefully meet these goals, but give them a different platform. For the micro work, this work is more nuanced and more subtle, but I would argue more important because this is the day-to-day work. So currently, teachers are collecting strategies and protocols that they can use in their discussion work. Keith and I are really encouraging a lot of trial and error with our teachers and reflection. The next stage of this, we're also having teachers observe one another when they are working through new discussion techniques. And lastly, I think probably most importantly, this is the reflection of our work.
And I can echo kind of what Gary said. I was in a classroom earlier this week where it was a math class and students had a common problem, but there were many different ways of coming to a solution. And the expectation was set that they don't just discuss it with their group, but each of the members of the group had to defend the method that they used of coming to that solution. And it wasn't just solution-based about getting the right answer. Mr. Griffin really wanted to see how the kids communicated defended their methodology. And it was great. I saw it, I'm like, okay, that's gotta go in the presentation, because that was a real defined example of the types of things that we're looking for. So, that carryover is happening in the classroom, not just on a PD day. So that's been pretty exciting progress on that goal. The second goal we wanted to highlight is our student connectedness, and we led last year's presentation with the idea that we were going to create a survey. And fortunately, we became aware of an opportunity through Panorama, which is a website that has some pretty incredible research-based survey questions on a whole variety of different topics. One of the areas that they've explored with their research is student connectedness. So we really kind of hit the jackpot when it came to this. So instead of kind of huddling around a room and trying to create good questions, we had this huge database of questions that were available to us. And I have a meeting next week with my team leaders, and we're going to kind of go through a lot of those questions and figure out the ones that we really want to focus on. But kind of as an overall kind of summary of the things that they're hitting on with this particular survey. And there's no way that our survey is going to cover everything here. But if you see even those headings that up there on the screen now, a lot of that is fitting exactly the types of things that we want to explore more about. So from before, our questioning was always to the teachers. How connected do you feel to the students? And in this opportunity, we're going to switch it around and ask the students how they feel connected to the adults and with the school as a whole. So it's going to be an exciting opportunity for us to really be reflective upon our practice. And just because a teacher may think they have a great relationship with a student doesn't mean it's reciprocal. So hopefully this collection of evidence might yield some different areas of improvement for us. So the next slide here kind of shows some of the sample questions about school climate. If you want to take just a second to read those over and put yourself in the shoes of a 6th through 8th grader and how you might feel about being asked these questions. I can imagine it'd be kind of unusual, but I hope it really gets us some accurate results. Maybe they need a definition of fair or unfair are the rules. We're not splitting hairs here around. Maybe we'll work on the wording of some of these. But those are 3 of about, I think, 30 questions that we could choose from. I just wanted to give you guys a sample of the types of questions related to school climate. The other area, and there was about 10 different subgroups. The other area is teacher-student relationships. And the ones that I kind of highlighted here are how many of your teachers are respectful towards you? If you walked into a classroom upset, how many of your teachers would be concerned about seeing you in that condition? If you visit a teacher in 3 years, how many of your teachers would be excited to see you? That's how they're currently feeling about that, but maybe they can kind of project 3 years out. And when your teachers ask how you're doing, how many of you really feel they're interested in your answer? Or how many are just going on to the next thing? So these are things I think, especially at the middle level, our kids can conceptualize and maybe give some real thoughtful answers to. So we haven't done it yet. We're in the preparation stage, but we're looking forward to that. Probably late winter, early spring?
Early spring, I would say.
Right when they're loving school. We want to hit it at a high point. So hopefully we do. And the second thing that we're doing related to the school is Gary and I have launched a Principals Leadership Council. And it really is focused around giving the students a voice and an opportunity to share their thoughts and their thinking. I was able to interview all of the candidates for this, so another opportunity for them to actually speak. They didn't just fill out an application or a Google form. They had to sit down with me and have a dialogue about what they were going to bring to the group, the ideas that they might have had and brainstormed about. We've had 3 meetings with the group so far. We've had some pretty interesting conversations, everything from homework load to lunch menus to what else came up in that brainstorm? Do you remember?
Having the same teachers for multiple classes.
Yes, having the same teachers for multiple classes. So all this is going to shed some light on stuff, but the other objective of this group is that we didn't just want them to talk about how much homework they had. We wanted them to learn about the history of Trottier. So right now, what we are scheduling and planning are interviews of 3 people that have been very important to our history. Mr. Trottier is going to be interviewed in the next couple of months. Hopefully we can catch him before he goes to Florida. Miss Murdoch is going to come in, being the first principal of Trottier. She's going to come in and do an interview, as well as Dave Smith. And Dave Smith was the first assistant principal, who currently has lived in Hawaii since his retirement in '04. But we're going to do a little FaceTiming with him, and maybe even the opportunity for a podcast, and get all this documented about where this school began and what was important to them back when they were leading the building and things like that. And our kids are, I thought they might not want that opportunity, but they've been really excited and actually fighting over who's going to be part of what interview team. So behind that, though, is the opportunity to really think about what a good interview is. So there's learning that's happening for these guys, and hopefully will give us some opportunity for growth for them, and certainly an opportunity for them to have a voice in where Trottier goes next. So that's a summary of our progress from September to December. I think it's the first year where I've had an update this early in the year, but I'm very happy with the progress we've made so far. So looking forward to the next chapters of our work. Any questions?
I do. On that slide.
Yep.
That has the heading Student Connectedness.
Mm-hmm.
There's the left-hand angle to the triangular pyramid says strategies to offset growth areas. I'm just trying to understand what you're trying to offset or what that means.
So hopefully from the survey results, We might be able to pinpoint areas where we thought we were good, but maybe we're not good enough from the student's perspective. Like maybe there's not enough after-school opportunities to connect with teachers. Maybe that's a yield that we get from the survey, and that's something that we can try to offset to have as an area of growth for us. That's just an example.
All right, okay. Thank you. So you mentioned, let's say there's a relationship kind of a statement that maybe the student thinks, maybe the teacher thinks that that teacher has a good relationship with the student, but at least potentially in reality, that's not reciprocal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm presuming the reverse could also be the truth.
It could.
A student might think that he or she has a good relationship with the teacher, and that might not be reciprocal either.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely true. I think, well, do you want to talk about the exercise that Lisa did? Remember that a couple of years ago?
Where she
Reversed it?
want
me to take it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, to answer that, Roger, I think you're absolutely right. I think even by asking some of these questions, we're hoping that whether it be the teachers or the students, think twice about how they respond to a question that might be seen as, let's call it annoying or a nuisance. Maybe they pause a little greater and they give a little more thoughtful of a response. Or maybe they go home that night and think of a different answer and then come back and share that dialogue with the student again, where they otherwise would have dismissed it. So we're hoping that whether it's teacher to student or student to teacher or teacher to student, we're taking advantage of those opportunities a little more. So I think that's what we're really trying to get at. But I think you're right. There will be some reciprocation the other way, definitely.
I know the question, well, if I come back in 3 years, will the teacher be happy to see me?
Yeah.
Somebody might say yes, and the reality is...
Not a chance.
If you talk to the teacher, you might get a different response.
Yeah.
No criticism at all.
I understand.
But, so, regarding communication.
Yes.
Are we mostly talking about, at least in this discussion, verbal, not written?
We're talking about verbal.
Okay. So, and that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So when we talked about the fact that some students are more challenged with verbal communication
Right.
than others,
Right.
and you've looked for sort of alternative or just not necessarily alternative, but ways to kind of enable that
Right.
in a fashion that might be different than the traditional. And talk about podcasts.
Sure.
If this is an inappropriate question, then we'll pass it. But if I were to say, from what you see, what are the 2 or 3, not necessarily causes, but the 2 or 3 biggest types of challenges that students that are more challenged in their communications, kind of what couple of areas that might fall into?
Sure. I think confidence is one.
Okay.
I think the ability to take content, internalize it, make sense of it, and communicate that's a multi-step process. And so students, we have to, in our work, we have to analyze where students are getting stuck. It could be on the comprehension of the information. So I would say, the comprehension piece, the strategy piece, it's not a one-size-fits-all model. So, for what a strategy that would work for you and I as a student in order to prepare for a proper presentation may not work for all. So I think, between confidence and then taking that multi-step process and practicing that might be where students struggle. And they, and then in the past, then maybe they have just failed, or maybe they felt that they have failed personally, whether it was in a formalized presentation, or it could have been giving the wrong answer to a homework question that gave them a setback. We don't know, but that's part of our work here.
So the last part of this then would be sort of taking your response. Let's take confidence. Let's take multi-step, and let's take strategy.
Sure.
Do you find you have more success in trying to turn one or those other around? Like one of those three might be a lot more difficult to turn around than others, or I know it depends on individual students.
I think we're going to have the greatest potential to move students by casting a wire net with our strategies.
Okay.
I think what I'm seeing right now is that teachers are doing more preview and review of the work. You know, I think where we just by doing student presentations, kids do not perform better. You know, it's not that simple. It's the preparation ahead of time, it's the performance, and then it's the reflection back. I think what I'm seeing more and where we're emphasizing is that reflection back. We're encouraging students to do more self-assessment of their own work. You know, what did they feel worked well? Where can they improve? And when they start individualizing that approach, then that will prepare them for the next one. So I think if we're going to make any growth in this, it's really the strategy piece.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yes.
What about fear?
Absolutely. That was going to be the next one I asked them to include.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
and I think you're right. So the fear piece is it's real. It goes into the confidence piece. So I cited the podcast for an example because to me it's a real world application. And if you listen to podcasts, or if you've ever had any experience in developing a podcast, they're hitting on all the strategies we're asking students to do. It's just giving that student a different platform and a different venue to hit those skills. So, you know, ideally, you know, if we have a student that lacks the confidence or has a fear and give them an opportunity with a podcast and they're successful, we move that bar a little bit for that child.
So
So,
maybe it's an iterative kind of thing.
Exactly.
You move it a little bit, and then
It's
they're in a different position to be able to move it.
you know, absolutely.
Because their start points are at very different spots on this. You know, Gary last June showed the presentation of an 8th grader sharing her thoughts on, I think it was a Victorian?
It was a Renaissance yeah.
related topic, and we choose that as almost like an exemplar. The spectrum of ability between there and kids that are even fearful of opening their mouth is real. Like, we're identifying that, and so the hope is no matter where they are on that spectrum of comfort or skills, we're going to move them forward. And that's why we're going to anchor it against a rubric that really helps us kind of quantify that those intervals and how to gain those improvement over time. So
Yeah.
it's ambitious.
And we showed the faculty the same
We did.
video, and you know, and we just asked for feedback, you know, about what they saw, and they were very complimentary of this 8th grade girls, presentation. And they said, you know, I wonder this, and one of the questions was like, I wonder how the teacher got her here. You know, and you know, and where she was as an 8th grader, I'm pretty certain she wasn't there as a 6th grader. And so for us, this work is that 3-year journey. And so when we hand them off to the high school, you know, we want to say with a lot of confidence that we've embedded this confidence, these strategies, and these skills around oral communication.
You know, for us, it's more like an 8-year journey. And I know it's not really starting in 6th grade, because I know we've heard from
Sure.
somebody else about how they're trying to get kids to talk more. I don't know if you can do this, but have you been able to identify whether 6th graders today are, you know, more able to speak publicly than
I'd say
they were
so.
some years ago?
I've seen a lot of confident 6th graders this year. I dropped into a couple classes earlier this week, and they did not hesitate at all to contribute, whether it be in a small group or a whole group, or with me, who just kind of, you know, popped in on a class. So, you know, I do see that, but I also see on the other end of the spectrum, you know, kids that will shy away from you even walking down the hallway. So the spectrum is still there. It might just look a little different, but I think the teachers are very in tune to where those individual kids are, so that they can individualize some opportunities for them, whether it be in the classroom or the hallway or just around the horn. So, you know, it's part of the deal.
And I would also say is that when teachers make the presentation personal, it's amazing where students can go.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned sixth graders when they used to do their individual experiments, and they could talk about how they planned it, how they put the Mentos in the Coke bottle, and how they measured it, and they sprayed their like that personal journey and that personal learning really is a great springboard for students to you know, hone these communication skills, as opposed to saying to a student, I want you to just present on this topic. So I think it also goes to what teachers are asking students to present on, and if they can personalize that approach, yeah, I think we're going to see greater gains.
I have a question about the survey. So I take it it's an anonymous survey?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I just want to say I think that's a fabulous idea, and I really admire groups who are willing to get any sort of feedback, because you really don't know what you're going to get.
We don't.
And I think that, and you know, but you're open to doing it, and I think that that's huge, and I think it's an important thing to do.
Yeah,
It's
so
wonderful.
we're excited about it,
Yeah.
you know, and hopefully when we get the, introduce it to the students, the purpose of it, and then we get the results, you know, as a faculty, we're going to look at them, see what the trends are, see where our strengths are, our areas of improvement, and then share that with the students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we have to have that, that sharing part is going to be critical to the buy-in.
Well, it's really admirable that you're thinking that far ahead. Like, I know a lot of us who work in the corporate world will get like employee surveys, and then you'll think you're giving your feedback, and then nothing will happen. And you know, you guys have a plan to like show the kids that you're following up on it, and you're hearing them, and you're doing something about it. I think that's great.
And the Principals Leadership Council, I'm gonna give them, first crack at looking at that and helping us. They'll be part of the review team
Yeah.
that's involved in taking a look at the data. So that was another thing that we're adding on to their list. Their list is getting longer as we go, but it's just another opportunity for them to be invested and involved. And I think we're winning when we're doing more and more opportunities like that.
And the Leadership Council is a brand new
It is.
thing, okay. And so how did that, so you said there are 18 members?
Yep.
And are there 6 from each grade?
Roughly, it's a little heavier weighted, 6th and 8th grade. I don't know what happened to 7th, maybe it was middle child syndrome or something like that. But 6th and 8th, or 8, actually 8th is very heavily represented. But they wanted to share about their experience. It is valuable to get that bookend of the 6th and 8th. And we do have a couple of very strong 7th graders that are helping us move along. So
And they had to apply for this?
They did. They had to
Okay.
apply and be interviewed by me.
Okay.
So they had to sit down with me, and it was a lighter conversation, but some of them were very entertaining. But some, it was just, they didn't open their mouths at all. And it really was really grappling with pulling out of them what they're thinking.
I think we
was.
found a couple assistant principals for.
We did. They're candidates.
That's right.
Actually. Yeah.
Okay, great.
What follow-up on that? So did you take everyone who applied, or no?
For the most part, yes. A few kids couldn't make the commitment work with their other obligations. Some decided not to even interview. So I had a sidebar with the parent and the student about that and encouraged them to maybe at a later time. It didn't close the door entirely, but it was out of fear that they did not want to have a sit down with me. Apparently they didn't want to come to the principal's office.
You'll fix that.
They're going to work on it.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
Anything else? Well, thank you. That was very informative and some great information there. And thank you for presenting it in a way that I feel like it made it easier for us to envision what's happening, which with examples and everything. So that was wonderful.
Glad.
Thank you. Okay. So next we have food services update.
So we have Kyle Parson here, Southborough Pre-K through 8 Food Services Manager, who'll provide you with an update on the food services program in Southborough.
But you didn't put that table together downstairs.
No, that was not me. Thank you for having me. I look forward to speaking with you tonight. Some of the topics we're going to go over tonight is update on our eco-friendly products that we're starting to implement into our cafeteria, a farm to school initiative that continues on all the time. Talk a little bit briefly about our participation levels, update on our NutriSlice system, and improvements to our menu with some slides, so you can kind of see what your kids are getting, literally what they're getting in their lunches every day. As the world changes, everyone's looking for eco-friendly type products. us in the food industry, there's a need for it, there's a call for it, and then the industry has to catch up to it. It does take time. Many years ago, a lot of eco-friendly products were extremely expensive and would just absolutely price us out of being able to use them. One of the things we do here in Southborough is we have reusable washable trays that we use, so we weren't really into the styrofoam. With the styrofoam ban that's coming January 1, actually it's happened in Northborough, but we've decided to bring it over to Southborough also. We're not going to have those products anymore. We didn't use a lot of it, but we're eliminating it. For instance, the paper product are 4 times as much, so that could cost us a lot if we use that exclusively, but we're planning on not to doing it. So a lot of our current packaging, we're starting to just look at, find alternatives to. A lot of the plastics are now coming out with a soy-based compostable material, so it will biodegrade within about 1.5 years, I believe is what they're saying that it break down into. And then we're starting to use more paper materials, again, because that's compostable materials. So, and once again, all these prices are coming down, so they're great for us to use. So another thing is straws. A lot of the kids today don't like the straws. They're trying to save the turtles. We know what happens to a straw when it goes into the ocean. So unfortunately, some of the straw alternatives just don't work yet. The paper straws, if you've ever used one, are horrible. We can't use the stainless steel, cleaning them, just not viable for us. So we're constantly looking for alternatives for those. And then we're investigating replacing our plastic serviceware. There are new products that are coming out that are biodegradable. Again, some of it's expensive, some of it could be bamboo. Again, there's a huge call and it is coming out, so we're looking at that also. So farm to school, it's constant. We're always looking for local fresh ingredients that we get. Our vendors purchase local products. It just naturally comes to us on a regular basis. Finn had some cherry tomatoes that they were able to serve and let the kids know that the salad had the cherry tomatoes in it. If you have a bumper crop, we can actually menu it and go with it, so it was great. Also, Tugas Farms gave us some Macoons, Galas, and Red Delicious apples that we were able to serve into our cafeteria. We put little markers out, let the kids know that they were of local. The Macoons were just absolutely fabulous, one of the best apples I think I've ever had. So once again, the kids I know really enjoyed that. Currently, we're getting carrots out of Western Massachusetts that are come out of the ground, root vegetables and the stuff that really lasts for us. Unfortunately, the season is kind of short for us when we're in school, and not much grows in the snow, and then in the spring, not much is available to us, but we do what we can. We're actively working with a local collaborative out of Worcester that is able to get us some product that we can afford. It has to be a business decision for us also. And you have to worry about extra transportation costs and things like that. So we're always just trying to make business decisions with that. And then, like our participation levels, this is kind of how we grade ourselves as to how we are doing. The scale kind of goes back to 2014, so you can kind of see where we were. And then I have like last year's numbers and this year's numbers, so that we can kind of see some trends that are happening very recently. So our free students for all of Southborough, this is how many we had. In 2014 you had 31, in 2018 you had 40, and then in 2019, this year, we had 61. So we additional 21 free students this year. Same as reduced. 2014 you had 15. You had a steady growth up until 2018 when you had 22. Now currently we are at 34, so we've gone up 12. Your total enrollment, which I know changes every year. Back in 2014 you had a little over 1,300 students. Last year you had 1,277. This year you have 1,288. I used October's numbers each of these years, so October's kind of how we judge. The state judges for your counts for the year, so that's what I used. So we're up 11 students from last year. Average participation, actually I'm going to go down to average daily attendance in schools and then talk about participation. The average daily attendance of how many kids of those 1,333 in 2014, 1,299 came to school on the average day. 2018 you had 1,241 out of your 1,277, and then we had 1,260 average daily kids attend our schools for that month. So we had 19 more kids who attend. So with that being said, we look at our average participation. That's a reimbursable meal that we sell. So in 2014 we had 384 average meals per day. In 2018 we had 472. In 2019 we went up to 489, so we had 17 more students buying lunches every day. So you know, interesting point is we always kind of look at that per school, and I challenged the staff here at Trottier to break 200. They broke 200, and then I said break 210, break 215. They had a high of 219 about a week and a half ago. So once again, I've set the bar at 230. You know, we're going to try to go to 250. So we're always looking to strive to get the students in, buy the meals, and you know, we survey them, we talk to them. We just really want to do fun things for the kids to get them in to eat for us and stay within the guidelines that our federal government gives us. So one of the things we did last year, we did a survey with the students and the parents. One of the things was people wanted more nutritional information online for us. So out of that, we've looked into several companies. NutriSlice, I felt, was the better of the companies that allow us. It's a computer program that we purchased that we're able to use to build the menus, put it out there for people to see. What's great about it is also it gives us, it's called a dashboard, and it gives us all the statistics so we can see how many people are coming from Facebook, how many people are coming from our website, how many people are from their phones, how many people are coming from a computer. So it really drills it down to show us the data, so it's kind of nice. So on the average, you know, our low was 276, and we've had as high as 424 per month come and look at the program. Parents and students can use it. I hope you all have seen it. It's pretty interesting. It has pictures on it. It has a filter in there so that if you are allergic to carrots, you can tell it that, and it'll wipe off all of the menu items that have carrots in it. If you're allergic to wheat, gluten, soy, fish, it's all in there. So it's a pretty neat filter, and it's just more information for people to be able to use. The nutritional information is readily available on it. I spoke about the allergy filter, and then Marianne Duggan and I worked on it. So, you know, it's a lot of process just to put in one menu item, but we went through it. We made sure it was spot on. All the information is there, and it's great. The
Here we go.
examples of our menu items.
You know, the first one.
Yeah, please. So
There it is.
build your own taco. One of the things we really wanted to try to do is make our food kind of interactive, let the kids kind of be able to build it as they want it, not just put it together and put it on the plate for them. So this is a beef taco, and it has the cheese mixed in with the beef, but we started putting the lettuce and tomato on the side so the kids can choose if they wanted it. The salsa and sour cream come on the side. That's a Spanish rice that we make. We're using a salsa in it and a little bit of cumin and salt and pepper, and we're really trying to just spice it up instead of just plain brown rice, because, you know, I went again to my staff and it's like, who likes plain brown rice? No one really raised their hand. All right, who likes a Spanish rice? Who likes something different? So we're trying to do more things that one would see at a restaurant. And then we have the seasoned corn. So this is a complete meal. The Unfortunately, it doesn't turn out well in that picture, but that is a blueberry and strawberry mix. It's a government commodity item. We're able to mix it together, so that's a credible fruit portion right there. And then another item that we were able to get that our government graciously gave us was a Alaskan pollock stick. It was actually a whole mussel product. It wasn't like chopped and formed. It was a whole mussel. It was whole grain breaded. It was a real nice product, and I said, well, let's do fish and chips. Let's make it fun. I said, let's do it like you'd get it at a food truck or a restaurant or something that you would have. So we're able to find these London printed. They look like a newspaper. We put it in the basket. We tried to have fun with it. Once again, it did pretty well. It did better than we thought it was going to do the first time. We've done it again. The numbers went up again. We got more product coming in. We're going to run it a third time. So we're trying to do some different things. When we've decided we're going to do it like 3 times and see if we get good numbers on it, and then we'll put it into our regular rotation. And it's a fresh coleslaw that we made in-house on there too. So once again, just like you'd see it if you went out somewhere. So that's what we're really trying to do. This is our pizza dipper with a Caesar salad that we do. It's mozzarella cheese and a whole grain rich bread product. We bake it off fresh. We brush it with a little oil, and we put a little salt and pepper and some seasoning on it, so it actually tastes like something. Otherwise, it just is very bland. So we try to, again, you don't go somewhere and not see something that's not garnished. So same thing, our Caesar salad, we're putting Parmesan cheese in it, just like you're going to see when you go out. Croutons are a whole grain rich product. We make our own pizza dipping sauce there. It's served warm. Again, you know, we're putting fresh garlic in it.
It's not packaged, right?
What's
It's not
that?
packaged.
It's not packaged. I mean, it starts, the tomato product is a canned product, but we're actually making the sauce from a canned product. It's not just out of the can, dumped in and called a winner. So we're seasoning it, so it's very good. This is a pasta with meat sauce. Again, we're making the meat sauce ourselves. We're cooking off the ground beef, pulling the fat out, adding the tomato product, seasoning it properly. Whole grain rich pasta. We got some nice baby carrots steamed there, seasoned. The craisins come out of Massachusetts. It's a government commodity, but that's a local product also. The garlic bread, again, unfortunately the picture doesn't show it, but that's got parsley on it, salt and pepper. Again, we're seasoning it with, we're making the garlic butter. It's not a product, so we're actually making that. It's served warm, crusty out of the oven, batched cooked. It's really good. I'll tell you, that's a good product we make. And these are some of our grab and go items that we make here. We do this here at our middle school. We rotate these items in for the kids so that don't get bored with it, and we actually rotate them. Some of our, I don't want to say unpopular, because then it sounds like we're serving things that aren't popular, but are lower used items. We'll take it off the menu. A month will go by. We'll bring something else in, and then we'll bring it back again, and the numbers kind of increase. They start going back down. We kind of rotate it in, much like Dunkin' Donuts does that a lot. You may notice that their items come and go, and there's always a new item for a month and a half, and then it disappears. And they do that because it's marketing, and they want the kids, they want you to be excited and go in and look for something new and not be bored. So we bring that concept in with our kids. So that's a chicken Caesar salad. We take our chicken, we toss it in a little bit of dressing, we roast it in the oven a little bit, we put it on fresh cut romaine. It's a whole grain rich crouton that we're making in-house. Unfortunately, we don't make our own dressing, but that is a real nice Caesar dressing that goes with it. So again, the student takes a piece of fruit, and that's a credible meal, a reimbursable meal. And it's great. You see the kids open it up. They don't want the croutons, or they want some of the croutons, or how much dressing they want to put it in. They shake it up and eat it out of the container. So it's great. And then we have the cereal bowl. Again, it's a incredible whole grain rich cereal that's made for us. It's a lower sugar item. It's really good. They're nice. They're again with the Yoplait yogurt, and then we put a cheese stick with that, and then that's your meat alternate, and then again with our local craisins, you have a complete meal with that. So with that, that's pretty much some of the items you see that we're doing. Does anybody have any questions?
I have two. How do I get permission to stop by and buy one? A lot of these things look better than the normal things I can come to, obviously.
Well, you know, we really try. That's what our focus this year is. We wanted to just garnish it, make it look like something that you'd see in a restaurant instead of, you know, do the best that we can do with the parameters that we have.
That's great.
But please come in. We'd love to have you. Love to show you.
Yeah, it looked great. You said something early on, not specifically related to menu, but you were talking about kind of being eco-aware and friendly. Talk about the straws, and you said a lot of the students don't like the straws because it really was of their concern for the environment.
Yes.
That's a pretty impressive, and I can't remember what I was thinking when I was in 6th or 7th grade, and I'm not sure I was thinking a lot about the environment. And so that's pretty impressive.
A lot of it's driven from the students. You know, I talked to the students. You had a couple of students who got together. I think it was one of the student councils, and they're like, "We want to do this, we want to do that," and I'm like, "Sure, just we'll get together, we'll talk about it, no problem." You know, it's driven by the students. You know, we want to be friendly to Mother Earth. It's a business decision, and like I said, you know, the industry wasn't there for us years ago, but it's definitely there for us now. So we're starting to catch up more. You know, the price comes down, the more and more people use it, the price even comes down even more. So we really, you know, we're just quietly going about our business doing that. And like I said, with the washable trays that we've had forever, we were already ahead of a lot of people. So.
So, could I just make one comment? I think one of the areas we're trying to improve is speaking to our customers, who are
Right.
students,
Right.
and really getting their ideas, their input and feedback around what they like to eat, what they don't like to eat. And that has been a powerful part of the program. So that's something that we started last year.
Yep.
And we'll continue to do on an annual basis. And students have great insight into what they like and don't like. So what we think we would like as an adult, they have a very different sense of what they might like. So you know, Kyle and his staff have done a really nice job of doing some listening, which is important.
Okay. Anyone else?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, that brings us to a legislative update.
So just a quick update, on November 26th, Governor Baker signed the Student Opportunity Act into law. So that is basically implements a lot of the recommendations from the Foundation Review Commission that reviewed the education reform funding formula. So we're actually kind of in a holding pattern right now. Becky reached out to State Rep Carolyn Dykema to see what impact it may have on our budget, but the numbers are very preliminary. Usually when a bill is passed, we have more firm data, but this seems to be the bill was passed and we're still waiting for numbers. Our projections assume that the Southborough community will not see any additional Chapter 70 state aid because it is considered a wealthy community. And the Opportunity Act is really about redistributing funds to communities that have had difficult budget times. You know, cities like Worcester and Holyoke and Springfield. The act really is not designed for communities necessarily like Southborough. But we're trying to collect as much information as we can because it's such an important part of our budget planning process.
Okay. Thank you. All right, next we have digitization of school committee meeting materials and warrants.
So just a general conversation around, so we produce a lot of paper at the central office in preparation for creating the school committee packets, which we are happy to do. But at the same time, we've also created digital agendas and so forth and materials. So you know, a conversation around, do we want to move to all digital and no longer use the paper packet, or do we want to continue to use the paper packet? So, and I know that I will share that Cheryl Lepre and Nancy Bissett, who are responsible for doing the packets each week, I won't share their opinion. You probably can guess what they.
You wouldn't want to take away their fun.
No, no, and I can't. You know, I don't. The amount of people power it takes to generate these packets is significant. It is a half a day minimum on a good packet week. So it actually allows us to do other things as well in terms of using office staff.
Yeah.
I'm curious, through the chair, would anyone on this committee be upset if there were no more paper packets? I mean,
Yeah,
it
I
may
mean,
very well,
that's-
it's a personal decision, but would
Right.
anybody?
Well, I think that's
say-
kind of the idea of this discussion, if anybody, I mean, I know, it sounds like Paul, you'd be fine with it.
Yes,
going in that
The resounding
direction.
yes.
Okay.
okay.
It's not- to me,
Okay.
it's not so much the packets, but the warrants. I mean,
Yeah,
look at that stack of warrants.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, right.
And we have reached out to legal counsel to see if we can digitize our warrants and looking at electronic signatures. So that is some research we are doing. So that's next.
Okay, so that's coming.
Oh, good.
So then just as far as the school committee packets are concerned, I mean, I personally would be fine with going digital because we get the meeting materials in advance when they're posted, right? And we get the agenda, we get the materials, there are links, it's very easy to look at. I think my only thought would be, are we bringing our own devices? And, how would we do that in terms of looking at things during the meeting? But,
So if we had advance notice that we'd like a device set up and prepared for when you arrive, that is something that we talked about and something we easily could do.
yeah, okay.
Could we not just put a lot of this on like a PowerPoint, or so that we can just have it up here as we're going through them?
We could
I
also
mean, some of these documents.
we could
right?
also
Not-
present.
Right, like the agenda
Mhm.
could
Yeah.
be up there
That's a good
for all
idea.
to see.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, I always bring my computer, I do
Yeah.
everything digital, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, I could bring my computer most of the time, but there are times I might not have it, so,
I have sort of two questions, and I sort of really share the feeling of, why kill trees if at all possible? I mean, I always used to bring my computer, but then this paper was always here, so I said, why am I bothering? Because it's going to be right here now. There are two things I'm thinking about, and again, trying to be very supportive of the digital. There are sometimes some things that I'll make a note or two on, which, depending on but I can live without that. In other words, you can have your own notepad, I guess, and not quite as easy as writing it right down next to the item. And the other thing is,
one thing I thought of before is
Go ahead.
maybe if we had paper copies of the agenda,
Yeah.
and then we have it, at least a piece of paper, something to make notes on, and it's probably fairly easy to do that.
Yes.
I would always, I always
Yeah.
print out, one thing I print out in my office, I print out a paper copy of the agenda ahead of time anyway to look it over and make sure,
Mhm.
so I don't even need
Yeah.
that, but I
Yeah.
mean, if everybody, that's a good idea. I mean,
Mhm.
that's a good way to make the notes. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's,
Okay, so what was your second thing, sorry?
that was the end.
Okay.
Do we still need to provide paper copies for the public though?
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
So there would still need to be the
So we'd
putting
still
together.
produce
Of a packet.
a packet, but it's the move to the linking of the agenda now in Adobe that I think we started about a month ago. makes it real easy to print out.
Just print
three-
that, yeah,
Three of
okay.
those and have those available for any citizen to attend the meeting.
So is that actually what you do, is you print 3 copies on paper?
So we could, there's an assembly line, so we have some pictures for you of how the packets are created, but we.
No, what I mean for the.
Yeah, so for this, we could easily
The
just.
thing you would do for them.
Correct. So,
What happens now?
so right now,
For the
it's,
public.
right now, when we create the packets for the school committee members, we create extra packets. So instead of,
How many?
I think they're up to 15 packets that we create. We all receive a packet as well. Then there are 3 extra packets that are created for anyone who attends.
So out of the 15, 3 of them are really the potential public.
Potential.
Because of the business
More reasonable.
More.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
You're good with it?
So-
Should we-
You're starting next month?
Fine? Okay.
So I would also add that, our counterparts in Northborough and the region are also discussing this, so you would be considered an early adopter.
Okay.
And the pilot group, so obviously we could try it, and get feedback and input around what's working and not working and fine tune it, before we present it in Northborough and the region, so.
You know,
Any-
What you could do is you could start it next month for the next meeting and have a couple of extra packets that would embarrass one of us if we had to go up and take the paper, right? I mean, get that on film.
Yeah, and I think the only other thing that, as I've been thinking about this since we first talked about it, is that if there's something in particular in the packet that somebody really would like a paper copy of at the meeting, that I think we could feel like we could ask for a paper
Absolutely.
copy at it, because just thinking like there's certain budget materials
Yeah,
that
like
are
the
actually
budget, yeah.
easier to look at on paper rather than scrolling through everything. But I mean, 95% of
Yeah.
things, personally, I don't read on paper, and I think
Yeah.
most of us aren't keeping them.
Usually I put the budget out at home anyway because
Yeah.
I look at it before,
Try to-
like
Yeah.
when we're doing the budget discussion, so
Mhm.
I just bring that, so. I mean, anything that, I think the eliminating of paper is fabulous
Yeah.
environmentally, but just giving people back their time, I think is even more
Yeah.
important to me. I think it's absolutely insane that somebody spends half a day printing out paper in the year 2019. Like, we should really, those 4
Yeah.
hours could be so much better spent on
Absolutely.
something else.
And I feel the same way about the warrants. I mean, the idea
Yeah.
that we have to physically come down here and sign a warrant in
Yeah.
this day and age it's just kind of nuts.
Yep.
It's
I
the
know-
20th century.
Yeah.
I mean, anecdotally, I'm pretty sure there are other districts that have gone all digital.
Yeah, it's definitely possible to do, so.
Yeah, okay, all right, well, that's next. And then, but this sounds like we're a go for this, for a
Yeah.
pilot
So if you hear
program.
cheering from the central office.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Southborough
Nancy and
will be-
Cheryl.
Yes, they'll like Southborough the best.
Yeah. All right, great. So, all right, no old business. Then we have superintendent's report to the committee.
So in your packet are the November 18th enrollments, and as of November, we had new students, and our total enrollment is 1,200 students. And we are monitoring enrollment closely and using the enrollment projections closely as we look at the budget and prepare that FY21 budget.
Are there any projections yet for K next year? Like preliminary ones or no?
So we have, according to the census, we have 104 eligible families. We're drafting a letter and hopefully Greg can approve it within the next week or so. So it'll be ready to send out to those families, but we have, as of right now, 104.
Is that kind of comparable to last year? or was
Last
it-
year we had 118, and as you know, we're up to 140.
So
That was a
huge increase.
spike.
Yeah. Which is interesting.
Yes, so I think that the K numbers are the hardest numbers to predict. But I think Jen Henry and Clayton and the staff do a really nice job in recruiting and finding out, who are the next incoming K class. So Clayton's been pretty good about his projections, so. Not quite as good as Jim Randall.
We are very thorough. I have to
Yeah.
say that when the packets do go out and we get families registered, we do follow up with a series of phone calls to ensure that they make a decision before we need it by the spring, so.
Great. Okay.
So next in your packet is the monthly general fund expenditure report as of November 30th, 2019, and I will have Becky speak to the report.
So as you can see, there are no significant variances from last month's report. We continue to track just as we were last year. As of this point last year, we actually had 4.44% remaining on the budget, or $905,000. We are at 2.73%, but we have about 600,000 more encumbered for this year in anticipated costs. So as we work with the schools and with the departments, we're making sure that the things that we know are going to be purchased and the salaries that we know we need to encumber have been taken care of. So we're trying to get a better picture in terms of projecting where we will end our fiscal year.
Okay.
So I'll move that we approve the Southborough Public School District fiscal year 2020 budget, monthly general fund expenditure report as of November 30th, 2019, until audited.
Second?
Okay, discussion? All in favor?
So next in your packet are the FY21 school committee budget priorities, which we will review when I present the preliminary FY21 budget. Also in your packet is the FY21 capital plan, which we approved at last month's meeting. And next is the FY21 budget calendar. So it's hard to believe it's December. And the budget process is well underway. And obviously tonight is the preliminary FY21 budget presentation. And when we return from our holiday break in December, January 8th is when I'll be presenting the recommended budget to the school committee. So we are moving quickly in the budget process. The financial advisory also reached out to me today, Kathy Cook, to set a date when we could present the Southborough budget as well as the regional budget. So I did not speak with her, but as soon as I know a date of the meeting, I'll let the committee know.
Okay, great.
And then next is, in your packet, is the FY21 preliminary budget presentation. So the presentation is in your packet as well. So I'm pleased tonight to share with you the Public Schools of Southborough Pre-K through 8 FY 2021 preliminary budget. And before I begin, I just want to thank everyone who participated in the process to create this presentation. The budget process begins early on in the summer with a lot of conversations around what goals we want to achieve, what it will take in terms of resources and human resources to accomplish those goals. And the principals have done an outstanding job leading their schools and having conversations with educators and really thinking creatively and thoughtfully around the FY21 budget and the needs of their building. So it's a collaborative process, and I just want to thank the principals and the central office staff so far for their work in that process. So we are a vision and mission-driven organization. We are about making sure our students have rich learning experiences and are prepared for the next grade level or the next school or high school. Gary's presentation and Keith's presentation really spoke tonight around the skill sets that we're trying to create in our students, the ability for students to think critically, collaborate, communicate, and problem solve are really part of our mission and our vision of the public school system in Southborough. And really, we're trying to create environments where students can meet their needs, we can meet their needs, and they can grow personally and academically. So just a quick review of the budget process. So as I shared earlier, the budget process begins in September. And you review the budget calendar and plan for the upcoming budget season. As a school committee, we review the budget priorities and the budget expectations. And this is a key document for the work that we do as an organization. The budget is a means to an end. So it's really those priorities that we keep going back to when we're thinking about our budget. We also use the strategic plan as well as the school improvement plans. Those are key documents in terms of our work. In October, the work really happens at the school level and at the district level in terms of our principals working with our faculty and staff, talking about what programs and needs exist in the school and how and what impacts those will have on the budget. In November, again, the school committee approves the budget priorities, and then December, the first preliminary budget, and then in January, the recommended budget, meeting with the Southborough Financial Advisory, leading up to the Southborough Town meeting, which is on Saturday, March 28th. So it is quite a process, one that takes a lot of thought and time. So this year for fiscal year 21, the budget variables, so it's early in the budget season, so what are the things we're not quite sure about yet? So the first is it's a contractual obligation, so we're in negotiations with the Southborough Teachers Association, so that is an unknown at this point. The Chapter 70 funding and new legislation, that is an unknown in terms of what impact that may have in terms of Southborough's Chapter 70 state aid, but the assumptions in this budget are that it will be level funded. And we also have a couple of contracts that are up for renewal. We are at the end of a 5-year contract for legal services. As well, we are in the 5th year of a 5-year contract for transportation services. So those are variables in the budget, and we have some assumptions built into FY21 preliminary. So again, the approved budget priorities are essential for the work that we do in terms of creating this budget. So, funding high priority items that are identified in the strategic plan and school improvement plans, maintaining the school facilities to protect the capital investments in buildings and systems, to ensure adequate and consistent and reliable funding to position Southborough Public Schools to adopt and integrate innovative 21st century skills into teaching and learning experiences. We talk a lot about providing social and emotional training and professional development to support best practices and programs for our students. And lastly, to provide an excellent education by placing a high priority on adequate staffing. Teachers have the most important part of the system in making sure they have the resources to do their jobs well. Student-to-teacher ratios, hiring high qualified candidates, and seeking to ensure that students reach their full potential. And lastly, maintaining the technology cycle of renewal and maintenance that we've established several years ago are all budget priorities in this budget. And I will have Marie Allen speak a little bit to the first budget driver, but we have a number of budget drivers for FY21, and one of the budget drivers this year is we're seeing an increased number of students who require out-of-district placements, and we'll come back to that. Another budget driver is the student information system upgrade. So our student information system, we began using it in 2001. It hasn't been changed or looked at over 2 decades. So Julie and her team are making a recommendation to upgrade our student information system. Next is textbooks. So we have some investments in this budget for mathematics and some small investments in terms of history and social science. But really for this budget, the budget driver is the number of an increased number of students who require out-of-district placements. And Marie, I don't know if you want to speak to that specifically.
Sure. Well, so we do have several placements that have required some residential placements, and that does impact the budget. In addition to that, we have tuition increases that have been built in to that number across the board, and that really impacts the number for this year. These were unanticipated placements and from move-ins and those types of out-of-district placements. But really, it's the residential placements that have impacted our budget for our more significant needs for students.
And I think it's,
Can I ask, so what is a residential placement?
A residential placement means 24/7, 7 days a week, 24 hours.
24/7.
so we're seeing an increase in residential placements, and they can range anywhere between 200,000 a year to 350,000 per year. And it's significant in terms of cost. But I also want to, we're responsible for educating all students, so it is an obligation we have. And the other comment I'll make is that in terms of the location of Southborough, a lot of families want to move into Southborough. Just the location and proximity of the NEC program, for example, because it's right here in our backyard. So we do have a few students attending the NEC program, and it's the right program for them, but it's expensive.
So how many additional placements, just a general, how many additional placements are we seeing this year compared to last year? Are we budgeting for it this year compared to last year?
Are we budgeting for 21?
I'm sorry, 2021 compared to
21. We have a couple of additional
A
ones
couple?
that we have. Yes.
Okay.
It's really a
Got
very
it.
small amount, but the tuitions are significant.
Understood.
So the budget drivers are out-of-district placements, student information system, and textbooks, for a total of $562,971.
Textbooks is a pretty large percentage increase from 2020.
It is. So we, 7 years ago, we made a purchase in 2 mathematics programs, Envision and Big Ideas. We bought at the time 7-year licenses. So the licenses have expired. This represents a renewal of those purchases. So that's the increase.
It's an unusual multiple, if that
Yes.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And the student information system update, is that Canvas?
So that is not Canvas. So the student information system houses all of our student biographical data.
Oh, like the actual, okay.
So report cards, transcripts.
Okay.
It is the tool that we use for scheduling.
Okay.
It will be the tool that parents can actually fill out forms online and submit data. So it's basically, it's how we submit reports to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education as well.
So are you hoping that parents will be able to fill out forms online for the next school year?
That's our goal.
That is going to be huge news to everybody, especially people with multiple children.
Yes, and that, a presentation at next Wednesday's combined meeting on the student information system will be presented by Julie Doyle and Andy Mariotti. So
Yeah.
you'll get more information about what that looks like.
Great.
So in terms of our budget offsets, so the FY21 budget uses FY20 and some of FY21 circuit breaker. So we have a $950,191 offset. We do have some line item adjustments, adjustments in terms of staffing, not less staff, but staff maybe who've shifted positions, and there are some savings, but also some savings in really fine tuning some of the line item accounts, looking very closely, for example, at our costs of printing, copiers, and so forth. And we were very creative to find line item adjustments of $383,453. And then also funding shifts to federal grant. So we had positions on our federal grant. And when you have positions on a federal grant, you also have to fund the retirement. which is significant. So what we did, we shifted those positions onto budget and shifted materials back onto the grant. So we had more grant funds to allocate to programs and things. So it was a creative way to save $41,845. So the total budget offset number is $1,375,489. So really, the story behind the FY 2021 preliminary budget, it is really a level services budget with growth in a couple targeted areas. It allows us to continue the high quality staffing and services, but no real additions in terms of increasing programs or starting new programs or adding new staff. So the preliminary FY 2021 budget is $21,662,696. FY 20 appropriated budget is listed there. So we have a preliminary budget increase of $841,822, which is an increase over FY 20 of 4.04%. And lastly, it's a level services budget, and I would say that the three areas where we see some small incremental growth is the student information system, instructional resources, and also there's an increased investment in translation services due to the increasing diversity of our student population. When Jen Suker presented the EL population and the diversity of languages, we're seeing an increase in translation services required. And again, I just want to end by saying this is a level services budget, and the principals have done a great job coming to this number, and we still have a lot of work to do in terms of those unknown variables, and also conversations as a leadership team around the next steps in terms of the budget.
Thank you. So I actually had a question about the unknown variables. So I feel like they could be fairly large variables, or
Yes.
they're just sort of this big unknown
Yep.
in some significant areas. So can you speak to
So that
when we might know these, and are we assuming not
Correct.
a lot of variance, or?
So the preliminary budget includes realistic increases in terms of like the transportation and the legal services contracts. We've reached out to other communities who've gone through the same type of renewal of contracts. So we have an idea of what the increase will be. So we have in our preliminary budget some assumptions built in that we feel are reasonable and realistic.
Okay, and no change based on the Student Opportunity Act,
So
really, but
so
we may see
this
some.
budget is predicated on that we will see the same level of Chapter 70 funding that we
Okay.
received last year.
Yeah.
We would love to see additional, but we're basing our preliminary budget on last year's funding numbers.
And will that be known early in 20?
So we're hoping we'll find
20,
out
I think?
before we leave end of December.
Oh, okay.
But when the governor presents his preliminary budget, we'll have a better sense of what our numbers might be. And we are working with our state legislators and representatives to get it. Hopefully they have some inside information for us.
Okay. Great, thank you. Anyone else?
Just one comment. I mean, I think you did a great job going through these line items and getting $383,000 off of this. If you go through, it's 15% here, 20% there, some small ticket items, but obviously it all adds up. I mean, that's great to be able to get really 3/4 of that special ed increase that we couldn't anticipate. That's very good work.
And that's the work of the
That's
principals.
great. Okay. Great, thank you. All right, next we have educational policy. Approval of 6th grade overnight field trip.
So Mr. Lavoy.
Yes, why don't we start with 6? You go ahead.
So I'm not sure if folks remember, but in September, we announced that unfortunately, the Stone Environmental School closed its doors unexpectedly in August. Since that, that information was received, we really grappled about how to move forward, because we found that the trip has been such a value to our sixth grade students, both educationally and socially. We've been, asked by teachers, students, and parents, what's the next step? And this fall, we collectively have been, exploring potential replacement. What we quickly learned is that there are limited opportunities just because many schools want to give their students the same experience. For example, in October, I visited Nature's Classroom in Charlton, and they have, I believe, 12 locations throughout New England. And when we looked at the spreadsheet of availability, we always ran into a conflict because we're competing with other schools, or it'd be MCAS testing or vacation time. We were very fortunate to find the Outdoor Classroom organization located in Freedom, New Hampshire, on the grounds of Camp Cody. And we began a conversation with that organization, and I had the opportunity to go north. Keith had an opportunity to go south on the Cape because they have 2 locations, and we got to visit the locations and kind of compared both. Again, we were up against the calendar because we were late in the process, and we explored a couple of potential ways to bring this opportunity back. And for example, the Cape Cod campus could give us a couple days in June, and the Freedom, New Hampshire location was working around MCAS, but they did have an opening in late March and early April. Keith and I also talked about the possibility of suspending the trip this year and then running the trip for 6th graders and 7th graders next year. When we looked at that, we knew it would stretch our calendar and it would tax our staff. So what we kept on coming back to this was that it's so important for our students, and where we finally decided is that we are going to, hopefully with your permission, is to reboot this trip with the Outdoor Classroom in Freedom, New Hampshire, and conduct the first trip for our 6th graders in March 30th, 31st, and April 1st. We're excited. The campus is gorgeous. It has a lot of similarities to that of Stone. It actually smells like Stone. I don't know, but I don't know why. But it replicates so many things that the Stone experience has. But what I'm most excited about is they offer a menu of classes which we can have our students engage in, from orienteering to outdoor cooking, to boat building, to dissection. That's something that Stone did not offer, so that there's a tremendous amount of potential. So we would be able to offer it for our 6th graders. The other piece of this is we'd be able to take the whole class at once. Typically, we've split it up over across a week, where we would have a trip go from Monday to Wednesday, and then Wednesday to Friday. And this would allow for the whole 6th grade to attend at once. The unknown variable is New Hampshire in March. Tundra
or muddy.
It could be the mud season, or we could. So I would say, I've also been to Stone when it rained every single day, and the kids did not care. So it's more about the staff. I think the kids are going to be okay with mud and snow. It's more about the staff. So the other good thing is we also have the potential to bring back the Stone trip in our October time slot, in that 3rd week of October, with the Outdoor Classroom. So we're hoping that this could be the beginning of a new tradition with the Outdoor Classroom up in Freedom, New Hampshire.
So the approval would be twofold. Would be for the March 30th through April 1st trip for the next couple months, as well as the October 19th through 21st, 2020 trip. So we'd love to, if we could get your support for that, that'd be great, because the planning for it and the commitment, and knowing now that all these places are pretty taxed and overwhelmed with overuse, which was kind of a surprise, this would cement us in that time slots, which would be advantageous.
Okay.
So this is over 2 school years, though.
Yes.
Anyone have any questions, or? I noticed in your letter you did say the cabins are heated, so that's good.
They are.
So, that's
We hope.
reassuring.
You saw it.
Well.
The thing is, you were kind of a glass half empty here. You really could have said April. it's really.
That's true, that's true.
But it's April Fool's Day, which
Yeah.
opens up a whole nother
Yeah,
load
yeah,
of
that's a
stuff,
good
but we
point.
don't want
Yeah.
to.
The I gotta work on my marketing, so,
Is the cost similar to
Yes.
Stone?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It
So-
looks really nice, like looking at the website and.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
The lake that, that it's located on is absolutely gorgeous. The recreation facilities for students, surpass Stone, to be honest with you. And the dining hall is, people have told me that they've hosted weddings there, like, some small weddings. So, hopefully no one's getting married on this trip. But I think there's a lot of potential. But there's the beauty of Stone is we knew the staff so well. They knew our needs. They knew, our expectations. And, that was, so that was the beauty of it. The downside was that we knew that the relationship had lasted so long. Elements did get stale. And so we're hoping that this change will be one that we can embrace for years to come.
Well, it's great you were able to get dates for next fall also,
Right.
so.
Got a motion?
Sure.
So I move that we approve the sixth grade overnight field trip to Camp Cody in Cleveland, New Hampshire, March 30th, April 1st, 2020, and the trip on October 19th to the 21st, 2020.
Second.
All right. All in favor? Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then we have another field trip to Washington DC.
Yeah. So thank you for the support of the now Camp Cody step. I'm gonna have a tough time not saying Stone, so forgive me if I do. It's just so robotic. But similarly, we had another great experience down in Washington D.C. over Veterans Day weekend this year. We were able to take 139 students down with 18 chaperones. We did have the added unbelievable experience of bringing 3 of our students from our NEC and CASTLE programs with us on the trip, and that would just added to a typically amazing experience. So we had a few kids with boots and crutches and all sorts of other obstacles related to it, but they were troopers, and overall it was an awesome trip. The weather cooperated. We were able to do everything on our agenda and then some. I'd say a highlight of this past trip was certainly the trip to the Holocaust Museum. Our teachers did an excellent job of preparing the kids for that experience, and they got a lot out of it. So that was awesome. I also, and I've shared this in a couple of different venues, I was really impressed with our students' engagement at the different museums. It wasn't just the Newseum that always was a place, which is closing, by the way. The Newseum is closing this month, so we have to replace it for next year's trip. But that typically drew a lot of interest from them. But this year, even the Natural History Museum, just every different thing that we went to, I was really impressed with the kids. The biggest change from prior trips that we tried this past year, and it worked really well, is we had tour guides on each of the buses. Usually we benefited from lecture drivers. That kind of had expired and run its course a little bit, so we actually brought gilded tour guides onto each of the buses, and that was a game changer. Took a lot of pressure off of me and the other chaperones to provide an experience. We relied on their expertise, and it was a much better experience for the kids and the value of going to the different places and understanding where they were going. So that will be a continuation at no additional cost. For next year and for the years to come. So I'm pretty excited. We have started preliminarily planning next year's trip, and things are lining up pretty well. The only change for the 2020 trip is that Veterans Day does fall on a Wednesday. And when this happened 6 years ago, we did ask for permission to not be in school in session for both the Thursday and Friday following. So it's Wednesday is November 11th, and then it would be Thursday, November 12th, and Friday, November 13th, that we would be requesting time away from the building to engage in the experience, which the benefit of that is that then they have the weekend to recover. So they'll be returning home on Friday evening, getting a couple of days to recover, and then be back to school on Monday the 16th. So that is the plan moving forward, and I look forward to getting started with your approval.
So when would you leave?
Tuesday evening, November 10th,
Gotcha.
and then returning Friday evening, November 13th.
I see. Okay.
Well,
It's just one question.
Sure.
Is there, I mean, this year it's great because they have the whole weekend to
Mm-hmm.
recover. My daughter went on this trip this year, so, and she loved it, just loved everything. She was one of the kids on the crutches, and she still loved it. But one thing is that she and a lot of her friends all came back sick, which makes sense because they're tired and whatever. I'm just wondering if it's ever been thought of, and I know it could affect cost and teachers, but like maybe adding another half day to it so there could be a little more downtime or sleep, because they didn't sleep.
So, back, I think it was 8-9 years ago when we converted to the Veterans Day weekend. We used to travel the first morning of and leave here at like 3 in the morning. So we have extended it. I think that was about 8 years ago. That was one of the drivers, was to keep kids on a more regular schedule. I don't know if that necessarily would do it by adding that extra time. I don't necessarily think it would be an added cost. It would be a function of the flights, and then we would have to extend the itinerary in some way. So there might be some things incurred somewhere, which the wheels are turning now. I don't know if that would necessarily make the kids sleep more. I guess that's what I'm getting at. The chaperones this year were very engaged with the kids. We kind of heard that might be a trend this year. We were paying attention to their talk prior and wanting to stay up all night. So we did have, contact with the kids and reminded them about, keeping the good hygiene of sleep. But, we did hear that a couple of times, that students didn't sleep overly well. So I don't know what else we could do. Maybe so we might be able to explore some other opportunities without extending the trip.
Yeah, or just getting back to the hotel a little earlier.
Yeah, maybe get back a little earlier. Yeah. Okay.
It just as a parent,
Sure.
I'm curious, so when you say maybe extend a half day, so you'd be talking about another night and then come back the next day?
Well, they just kind of spread out the agenda, like they go
That's what I'm
thing to
talking
thing to
about.
thing to thing, and it's
Right.
really quick, like all day long, and then they get back late, and then
But-
they have to shower, and then they're not in bed until, like 11:30.
But the extension you're suggesting is stay over one more night and come back the next morning, something like that? Is that when you're saying a half day?
Yeah,
and
or
then-
just, I wouldn't wanna like eliminate things, but because it's all.
We could fly out
educational.
earlier on the Tuesday.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. If you
Yeah,
fly
just
out
to spread things
get
out
back
a
to the
bit more.
hotel, at a better time on all 3 of the nights. I mean, that could do it. It's a matter of, the behavior of the students in the hotel rooms, going
Yeah.
to
Well,
bed.
that's what I'm getting at, because
Yeah.
my feeling is if the way you extended it was to add a night,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's gonna do it.
I'm not sure I'm doing it.
Stay awake all night.
Right,
I mean,
right.
But maybe earlier in the first day or something.
But, Mrs. Devine brings up a good point. I think getting on a better schedule and getting back to the hotels is something I could look at. We're typically back to the hotel by 9, lights out by 10. Students aren't asleep by 10.
Right.
And they are getting up on some days, depending on the start of the day, whether it be 6:30 or 7 in the morning. And you're absolutely right. They didn't necessarily go to bed when we wanted them to. So we could explore it.
But
Sounds like
they're,
a typical day at my house.
they're 13 and there's only so much you can do.
But they were also walking, 10 to 12 miles during the day, and
Yeah.
they're wiped out.
Yeah.
So there's overtired, there's a bunch of different factors.
Yeah.
But I can look at the itinerary.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing experience, and I just admire all the teachers for giving up all that time and spending.
I appreciate
all
that.
time. I mean,
They'll
it's
appreciate that as well.
Amazing.
It's really
Yeah.
nice.
They do such a great job.
Great. Okay, great.
Motion.
Yeah, sure.
I move we approve the 8th grade overnight field trip to Washington DC, November 10th through November 13th, 2020.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Great,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, next is policy development and/or distribution.
So we have Rehabilitation Act compliance, A130, that we had reviewed by legal counsel, and legal counsel made a recommendation to rescind due to the fact that it is Mass General Law.
And also redundant with
And
another
redundant,
policy, I think,
exactly.
right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So we can vote on
We
this
would need it.
tonight if somebody would like to make a motion.
I'll move that we rescind Rehabilitation Act compliance policy A130.
Second. Okay, seconded by Jen. Any discussion? All in favor? Great.
And the next policy is student bus behavior J180. And this policy has been reviewed by the policy subcommittee, so no vote is required. And we did look at the work that was done last year in terms of looking at the transportation procedures and guidelines, and this policy is still required at this time. So we reviewed it and made no changes.
Any comments on this? Okay, personnel items, personnel report.
So in your packet is the personnel report, and we have a very short report this evening. One appointment.
On a whole piece of.
Okay.
Not whole piece of
That's right. All right, so that brings us no communications. Then we have action on minutes, the open meeting of November 13th and the executive session minutes. Any discussion on these?
A couple small changes.
So I believe, I know Cheryl made the changes, and I'm not sure if she replaced the minutes in the packets with the changes, or if she handed these like get revised. More paper.
It's just they have
So
a
this is your
fill in
plan?
one
You
spot
can-
and
Oh.
it was an extra, it was just
Okay.
a typo somewhere else.
Okay.
I'll move that we approve the Southborough School Committee open meeting minutes of Wednesday, November 13th, as amended.
Second?
All right, all in favor? Okay. And executive session minutes, we would approve and retain?
Are we
Just for now?
retaining? So I'll move we approve the executive session minutes for the meeting on Monday, November 13th, and retain.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. Did you vote?
I did that.
Okay. Okay, approval of bills and payrolls we'll do after. Agenda items for next month, so we have the budget presentation, recommended budget. Anything else? Okay, we'll see what comes up between now and then.
We could, and I did, Julie Doyle did present a pre-K through 8 technology update in Northborough. So we could invite Julie to do a presentation on January 8th.
Sure.
That'd be wonderful, great.
I'm sure she'll be thrilled.
You know, one thing, and this doesn't have to be for January, but at some point could we talk about, I know you've been doing a lot of behind the scenes work on improving communications, and they have improved, and maybe just talking about that and what you've been doing, and I know some of the people in the central office have been helping you like look at what other school districts are doing. And
We will also be launching our, a survey for reauthorization of strategic planning. And the survey basically is the survey that was administered when we first started the school strategic planning process in 2012. So we're going to have some benchmark data. We'll have the data from 2012 compared to the launch of this survey, so we can see how we're doing or where we're missing the mark. So that is data we can add to the conversation.
All right. Okay, so we're back to audience sharing, and then we'll move into executive session. So anyone have anything they'd like to share? Okay. Do we have a motion to move into executive session?
I'll move into executive session with discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining due to the chair's determination that a discussion regarding this matter in an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the position of the committee with no intent to return to open meeting.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes.